Hey guys, welcome back to Furniture Flipping Teacher. If you're new here, my name is Lauren and I am the Furniture Flipping Teacher. I recently resigned as a full-time kindergarten teacher and now I am here to show you how I take old and outdated furniture and give it a new life and a new purpose. Along the way, I hope to impact and inspire you to find a creative way to also earn a little bit of extra income or even take the furniture that's in your house and give it a new life. Neiman and I are now on a journey. Since I paid off my student loan debt by flipping furniture, we are on a journey to save up for a down payment on a house. So follow along on our journey. Today I'm going to be flipping this here chest of drawers, and as you can tell, we got this big canopy here because it has been very hot here lately, like in the 80s, 90s, even I think it's gonna get close to 100 here in a couple of days. So if you didn't know, Nebraska is not dry heat. It is wet heat. It is very humid in Nebraska when it is summertime. So at least this canopy can help us stay out of the direct sunlight. Don't get me wrong, it is still very hot, but this will help a little bit. So let's get on to it. The first step, as always, is to remove the hardware. All right, so I am gonna be keeping the original hardware. You guys know I love to do that as much as possible. I'm gonna attempt to clean this up, but to me it looks pretty damaged, so I'll probably end up cleaning it and then just spray painting it. And then look at this hardware. That is so neat to me. This could honestly go either way too. Looks like they have it up and down. There's 2 screws. If I wanted to though, I could make it go side to side. Look at that, so pretty. So look how gross it is underneath there. Ugh. That is why we take that hardware off before we clean. I've learned my lesson. I used to not do this, but now I do it every time. Now that the hardware is all off and the drawers are out, we're ready to clean. I'm gonna clean with Dawn dish soap and some warm water today. As long as you've got that degreaser, you'll be good on whatever cleaning product you decide to use. So we need to get that dirt and grime off just because it's gross, first of all, and then second, that'll also help our paint to grab onto the surface of the dresser and stay on there without coming off easily. While we're here, we'll also go ahead and get inside these drawer compartments, get all that dust out. You really want to try to do this on every piece of furniture because that honestly is probably the dirtiest part. You know, you're not trying to put paint in there, but you want to get it all clean because you're going to be selling this and you want it to be in the best condition possible. Or even if you're not selling it, it's going to be in your house, and if you're going to be revamping it, why not go ahead and clean it all? First layer of cleaning is done. Now we're just gonna go ahead with clean water and then rinse everything off. I'm gonna go ahead and tip this back a little easier. Okay, let's go ahead and do some sanding. Alrighty, we're ready to do some sanding. So while I was cleaning, I kind of thought it would be cool to try some raw wood along with the paint color that I chose. So I think I'm gonna try that on just one of the drawers and see what's underneath the color on top, and to see if we're gonna go ahead and keep that or not. Otherwise, I'm gonna be using a 320 grit for the rest of it, but to get underneath that finish, we're gonna start with a 120. Put my mask on, protect myself, and then let's go ahead and go. That was like the weirdest thing that I've ever seen underneath like a veneer. It's super weird. It was a layer of this antique-y almost look, and then the brown color, but then underneath that was like a black color, and then underneath that is the wood, the veneer. So really interesting. Not too sure why that was like that, but I also did notice that like on the sides of the drawers, they're black too. So I wonder if that's a manufacturing thing or what. I've just never seen that. So I don't know. I was hoping for a lighter wood here, so I'm still kind of undecided if I'm gonna keep that or not. I was really hoping for that lighter tone of wood. Okay, sanding is finished, and now it's time to wipe it back and prime. All right, it's time to prime. I'm gonna go ahead and tape off this little gold accent here because I'm gonna keep that, and so I don't wanna get any primer or paint on that, and one way you can do that is by taping it off. And as you can clearly see, it is the next day and our canopy is no longer up. We actually had a storm this morning, but don't worry, we took it down actually during the storm. Probably should have taken it down before the storm, but you know how that goes. We were being stubborn. Anyway, we took it down, so it's just drying out, and we're still figuring out how we are going to keep us in the shade at all times, but we're gonna put some tape on. I'm going to be using the Kills primer, and this actually is similar to the Bin Zinsser shellac-based primer. This also blocks those stains and even odors. This one's not really giving off many odors, but that is an added benefit. I am going to be rolling the primer on. This is just something that I have learned to or come accustomed to and liked. This is my favorite method of applying the primer, especially when it's the, oil-based, shellac-based. It's hard because you can't really clean out the brushes and the rollers after you've used this oil-based, unless you're gonna be using like a harsh chemical cleaner like ammonia or something like that. I personally try to get as many uses as I can out of a roller until it's dry. I just, wrap it inside of a plastic bag for a couple of uses and then trash it. I'm gonna go ahead and pour this in my container. I've got it all lined with foil, so that way that's also easy cleanup. And then we'll go ahead and roll it on. I'm not sure I mentioned the price on this dresser. I actually got it with another dresser that is the longer dresser, so a chest and a dresser. I got both of them for $85. So this one we'll say was $40, the other one $45. So I'm excited to see what kind of profit I could get out of this. I'm actually going to be doing a color I've never done before, so I'm excited to show you guys here in just a little bit what color I picked. The reason I decided to split up the two pieces, the chest and the dresser, is just because I wanted to do two separate colors, and I had just a vision in my head to use this one as one color, and then I had a different color in mind for the longer dresser. And I also think that I may be able to get a little bit of a better profit by splitting up the dressers. Now, you know, you guys have seen me do sets before, so it's not that I'm opposed to doing sets of dressers, but I just wanted to see what kind of profit I could get when I separate these two. All right, all the primer is on, and now it's just gonna dry for just a little bit now, and I'm going to do a little sanding before I put the paint on. I went ahead and ended up deciding that I wanted to paint that top drawer. Like I said, it just wasn't quite that right color of wood for me, and I didn't wanna deal with any bleach or lightening it up. So I just went ahead and painted it, but time to let the primer dry. Okay, primer's dry, so I'm just gonna take a medium to fine grit sanding block and smooth everything out so that we can get a smooth finish and that this textured part doesn't pop through our paint. It really just depends on kind of what you like to do. You could also take your sander back out and use like a 180 to 220 grit sandpaper to also smooth all this out, or you could do it by hand like I do. Okay, everything is smoothed out, so we're ready to paint. Are you ready to see the color that I chose for this beauty? Neiman actually helped me choose it out. He picked it. This is Mint Julip. So it's like a minty green. I really love it. It's like a pastel color. It's way different than anything I've done. The only kind of pastel color I've done before is a pink. This is gonna be exciting. I'm really wondering how my market's gonna take it. So we're gonna do the green, and then it's gonna have those gold accents. So for my brushes, I'm gonna be using two. Well, I always say I'm gonna use two brushes, and then I always end up just kind of using one, but we'll see. I've got the 2-inch chisel brush by Zebra, and then I've got the square brush by Zebra as well. And that one kind of just more helps with, you know, the trim and things like that. So we're gonna give both of these a try. I'm actually waiting for a new sprayer in the mail, a mister. I clogged my other one. It got some leaves and dirt in there because I tried filling it up with the hose that had dirt all over it. And yeah, I'm gonna water down my paint a little bit as well as my piece before I go ahead and paint. So when you're painting, you just want to make sure that you're going up and down or side to side, whichever way you prefer, but just make sure to keep it consistent. So I know I just said that, but I go across here, but then I go ahead and make sure to finish with an up and down motion. That's the way that I prefer. You could go across side to side as well. And the reason that I say go in one direction is just so that you're consistent with how your paint looks. If you're brushing it on, it's pretty much impossible to not have at least some sort of brush stroke marks. But if you are brushing it on, you know, at least they'll go up and down or side to side and not kind of all over the place, unless that's the look that you're going for. You guys, I've learned to paint on the underside of basically everything. because it's really embarrassing when you're loading the piece and then you see the spots where you totally missed and it's the original color. So always make sure to kind of look at it upside down, figure out what you're going to be able to see when those drawers are pushed in when you're loading it into a car or something like that. Okay, the first coat of the green is all finished and it's drying a bit darker than it goes on, which is true to most, if not all, paints. So that color is just gonna keep darkening, and then I'm gonna put a second coat on once this one is dry so that I can get complete full coverage. We're ready for coat number 2. So I'm just gonna be doing the same exact process that I did for coat number 1, except right before that, oh no, I lost my sandpaper. But right before that, I am going to use my 320 grit sandpaper and just smooth out the surface one more time. And again, that's just so that we are gonna eliminate those rough spots. All right, it's time for coat number 2. Okay, so now that we've got that second coat of green on and that's drying, I'm gonna focus on the hardware for a minute. And I tried kind of cleaning it up a little bit, but I can just tell that the coloring is completely chipped off and worn away. So it's not gonna work for me to go ahead and clean it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take my Krylon metallic gold leaf color spray paint. You guys, this is like the most modern gold out there that I have found. I got this at Lowe's. It is amazing compared to the vintage gold or the pure gold by Rust-Oleum. Now, don't get me wrong, Rust-Oleum's great, but this color is awesome. And then again, when you're spray painting, you just wanna go nice and slow. You wanna focus on not getting too much in one spot and just keep moving. Generally, you're probably gonna need more than one coat of the gold, just for full coverage. All right, so I think I've got most of it covered. Again, I'll come back with a second coat just for full coverage, but that's gonna dry for a little bit now, and we'll get ready for top coat on the green. Okay, I'm gonna be using Dixie Belle's flat clear coat to top coat this dresser, and that's just because I want more of a matte look instead of the shinier satin look. And then I'm also gonna be using a fan brush, and I used to kind of like using the foam brush, but instead of the foam brush, lately I've been really liking how the fan brushes put the top coats on. So whether that's the Dixie Belle fan brush or the zebra fan brush, it kind of just spreads it out really nicely and it gives it a nice finishing touch. So just making sure, you know, I don't have anything on there debris wise. Just as with your paint, you want to go in one direction. With these drawers, it's a little bit trickier because there's these lines here. So I'm going to go this way as well, just because there's getting a bunch of top coat in there. And so I need to get all that spread out, but then I'll go back and make sure everything is going the same direction. With top coat, you don't want to make it clump or anything like that. You just need to go slow. Don't use too much in one area or else it won't dry, or when it does dry, it'll really pool up and be cloudy. I've told you guys my tip on how to lessen the cloudiness when you're doing top coats, but that's mostly for darker colors where you can add the color of paint to your top coat. Now, obviously you can tell I didn't add anything to this top coat because this green is a much lighter green. I'm not really worried about any streaks or things like that. Top coat's gonna dry now, and then we're gonna head over to the hardware for a second coat on that before we put it onto the dresser. That second coat of gold is dry here on the hardware, and I get a lot of questions, do I also top coat my hardware? And the answer is yes, you need to, because that's where the people are gonna be grabbing. So I've got the matte clear from Rust-Oleum. You could also do the satin. I just wanted mine to be matte this time. And this is just gonna act the same as a regular top coat on a dresser or something else. And it's just gonna give it that layer of protection. Okay, so again, that's just gotta dry. A lot of this is drying time. So as far as how long pieces of furniture take, if you just factor in the actual work time, that's your actual amount of time invested, because this dry time, it can get to be a long time waiting. You know, you have to let the primer dry, you have to let the first coat dry, the top coat dry, and it gets to be lots of drying time. But you know, just think and make sure that you remember that your time investment is actually only the parts where you are doing the work. So again, we're just gonna let that dry and we'll be able to assemble the dresser here in a little bit. Before we put the drawers in and attach the hardware, we've got to remove this tape. So let's hope that it did a good job. I may have to do a few touch-ups here along the edge, just maybe with a smaller brush because we've got a little bit of white popping through, but that won't take much time at all. I'll do that at the very end. Yep, and the same goes for down there. I'll just have to do a few little touch-ups with the artist brush, it's called, just a little tiny little paintbrush. But we're ready to go ahead and put the drawers in. And remember, we wanna go nice and slow when we're putting the drawers in, especially because, you know, it's dry to the touch, but it's really not quite dry yet. And that's because of that cure time. It really needs that 21 days to cure. We just gotta be really extra careful. I think I'm gonna show you guys a step that I have done one other time, and I found it really helps when you have these wooden rails instead of the rollers, like the wheels. If you have these wooden rails, or if maybe there's not even one in the middle, but it just slides on the edges, there's a trick that I just tried out. I've known about it, but I just hadn't tried it yet. And this trick works amazingly so that the drawers slide in and out really nicely. So let me grab that real quick. All right, so in order to make these drawers slide really nice, I've got Big Mama's Butter in Suzanne's Garden. So they've got a couple of different scents. They've got orange and they've got Suzanne's Garden. So they just have different smells. This one's a bit overwhelming in my opinion. It just smells like a garden. But what you do is you just get a wax brush here, and then you're gonna go ahead and put it onto the wood parts that slide against each other. And that is just gonna kind of grease up, I guess you could say, these areas, and then allow for easier sliding. All right, and then not only are we gonna put it in there, we're also gonna go ahead and put it on the bottom of the drawers as well. So we're just gonna flip it right over and then grab a little bit and put it right in the middle of there. Also here on the edges. And then we'll just go ahead and slide that drawer right in. All right, that looks great. Now we'll go ahead and attach our hardware. I'm just gonna do the bottoms of one drawer at a time. Ooh, that looks really good. This is exciting. I love this color. Let me know what you guys think of the color. It's definitely unique and different than anything I've ever done and then anything that you really see. So I like it. Do you guys like it? Let me know, let me know. Label your drawers. I thought this one was the top one. I didn't label these ones. Done, almost. I just gotta do those little touch-ups here and then we'll be ready for some photos. So to fix this little area here, I've got a really small artist brush and then I've also got my little micro sander, and I'm just gonna kind of buff out these little areas here to make everything smooth, because there's just some spots where, you know, it kind of came off a little bit with the tape, and I want to make sure to fix that. And then when you just need a little bit of paint, usually you can just use the paint from the lid. So I'm going to take just a tad bit and just be really careful and go ahead and paint right along those lines. Looks like a little bit peeled underneath here. So just basically wherever you see that might need to be touched up, go ahead and touch it up. And then since we're doing this green again on top of that top coat, we will have to do a second little top coat on this area, anywhere where you apply paint again, or else it's not gonna look the same. And plus we want that all to be protected. The touch-ups are complete, so the last thing that I've got to do is just do a real quick flat top coat in those areas, and then we'll be ready for photos. So we're ready to stage and take some photos. We're just kind of gonna play around with some different props. That way we can get the best look possible. Again, the reason we're staging is so that we can allow the buyer to imagine it in their home, so that they can kind of see what it might look like if they had it in an area in their own home. So just kind of a different differentiation, variation of heights of items. That way the eye kind of goes different places. I always like to try to pull out the color of the hardware, especially when it's gold. So as you can see, I grabbed a couple of gold things. You know, I say this a lot, but I'm really still working on staging and how I can better stage my furniture, but a little bit goes a long way. So now let's get some photos. So when we're taking photos, we're gonna get one of the full dresser and then more of details. So just accentuating those beautiful details of the hardware and of the color itself. And then you also want to unstage it and do some more photos exactly the same way. And then also, if there is any marking in here, such as this, that's another good thing to get a photo of, because someone might not know what furniture company that is, but that kind of just lets them know that this is a legit piece of furniture and it's solid wood, it's old. If they wanted to look it up, they could look it up. So for pricing, I kind of came to about a standard pricing on my taller chests, but then I listed one a little bit more than that and it had a lot of interest. So I really think it just has to do with what it looks like. And the last one that I sold had a lot of people interested, and it was sold at $275, no questions asked. My normal chest price is $225. I just get, you guys ask me a lot about my pricing, and honestly, sometimes I don't even have a rhyme or reason why I price it that way, other than previous experience and what I think this piece is valued at because of its uniqueness, because of maybe how long it took me to do something, and how the end project looks. For this one, I think I'm gonna go ahead and list it at $275 again. Neiman might convince me to go to maybe that $300 to $325 mark. We'll have to kind of talk about it. I really don't decide my exact price until I am actually on the listing and filling out all the information. So we're gonna go ahead and post this on Facebook. Remember, dimensions and all of that need to be on your listing as well. We're gonna hope that my market takes this cool, bright, but soft green piece really well. Well, she's still here. She's still pretty. She's still on the market. I have actually lowered the price down from $300 to $250. So it's been listed for 2 days. I've got one person that's interested, but it's just taking her a little bit of a longer time to respond. 2 days isn't that long in the grand scheme of things. I know that this will sell. Again, that right person is out there. I've had actually one of my best friends, she loves this color and she doesn't need a dresser right now, or else this would be in her room. It's a fun color. I love the way that it turned out. I love the finish on it. We're gonna continue to leave this on Facebook Marketplace, which is where I sell all of my furniture. Head over to Instagram and give us a follow at Furniture Flipping Teacher, and we'll let you know when this guy sells, and hopefully it'll be within the next couple of days. Get subscribed down below if you're not already, to continue following along on our journey. We've got so many fun things planned and ideas up in our heads that we cannot wait for you to be a part of and for you to experience along our side. We'll see you on Thursday for another awesome flip. It's a new one, a new paint that I'm using, and a new technique that I'm using, so you're not gonna wanna miss it. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I'll see you on the flip side.